the June 16th edition of the CRTPA board meeting. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 1:30 p.m. And I'll ask Greg, are there any agenda modifications? Okay. Always skip that call, because there says call to order and roll call.
We can
Okay.
separate it.
Commissioner Williams-Cox,
Here,
Commissioner Richardson,
I can
Here.
read.
Commissioner Matlow,
Here.
Commissioner Minor,
Here.
Commissioner O'Keefe, Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Messer-Smith.
Here. Everyone?
That's everyone.
All right, and I understand, Mr. Attorney, we have a quorum. Thank you. All right.
Thanks to
Now-
our city commissioners for the quorum.
Now, Greg, are there any agenda modifications?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments on items not appearing on the agenda? This is like the equivalent to on agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
we have any?
We did not have anyone sign up.
Okay, thank you. Moving to our consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
It's been properly moved to accept the consent agenda and second it. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. And since there were no items pulled from the agenda, we'll go to our roll call vote agenda.
Yes, ma'am. First up is TIP amendments. I'm going to hand it off to Suzanne, give you a quick update on both of these.
All right, thank you.
And this will be a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Thank
Excuse me for a second. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to present the fiscal year 2026 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program. See if I can operate this clicker now. So at first, I'm going to just touch briefly on the public engagement. So it was done for not only the TIP, but also for the PPLs. Each year, we adopt a TIP, which is the program funding of projects over the next 5 years. At the same time, we adopt or approve a project priority list as a separate agenda item, and that's the projects we're seeking funding for or phases of projects. Public engagement was virtual and in person. Sent it to our regional partners, asked them to put it out on social media, distribute it to contact lists, put it in the Leon County link, and then we also promoted the interactive tip where people could go in and look at the projects online, and then also take a street view to see where exactly that project is going to be constructed. So the TIP is necessary, it's a requirement within the state and federal requirement. It's approved annually. We add a new 5th year each year. It allocates resources across all modes, as well as operations and maintenance of the system, the schedule of improvements for each year and the funding, and it assigns available funding to projects or phases of projects. As I said, it's for all modes. It is consistent with our 2045 Regional Mobility Plan, and the TIP must demonstrate that the transportation projects are financially feasible. The different categories are aviation, bike ped, bridge, and that actually should say bridge and rail this year because we do have one rail project, major capacity, transit, public transportation, resurfacing, and then transportation systems management. The TIP funding is from federal, state, and local sources. Here it is, a visual by category, and I'll give you the actual numbers to follow. Here's the distribution of funding from each source. So the predominant funding this year is federal. Here's the distribution of funding by counties, percentage. And then here are the totals by by category, and it is rounded to the nearest thousand. So real quick, I just want to touch on two things here. One, the legislature allocated $100 million for sun trails. And then last year, there was also the Moving Florida Forward initiative that was funded Capitol Circle, that last segment from Crawfordville to Springville. That is substantial investment that we see in this total number of 622 plus million. Resurfacing is always a priority, maintaining the existing system. And there again, a lion's share at over 272 million in funding. And with that, you have any questions, please? And then our recommendation is adopt resolution 2025-066A by roll call vote approving the fiscal year 2026 to 2031 tip. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speakers on this item?
No, ma'am.
Are
Sorry,
there,
excuse
are
me.
there any questions, members, board members? One question I have is, I noticed that the lion's share of it is federal. Do we have any concerns about where things are heading in that arena?
No, ma'am, not at this point. I think a lot of that is probably still, some remnants, per se, of the BIL bill from a couple of years ago. It's actually a little bit unusual that typically the state funds are more prominent than the federal funds. Typically, in a given year, about 75% of the state trust fund dollars are state and 25% federal. But I think that bill actually skewed that a little bit. It's probably going to take a year or two to find out, what kind of impact there's going to be. We haven't seen any wholesale cancellation of programs at the federal level on the transportation side.
Okay.
So, but the bill is coming up for reauthorization, I believe, in 26 or 27. So that'll certainly be a topic of discussion at that point.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Pull your mic down, Commissioner.
And this may be a more appropriate question for the project priority list part of your presentation, but has that changed at all?
The project priority list?
Yes.
Actually, the only change to it is that we added a PD&E study for Northwest Capitol Circle from I-10 to US 27. And that's more of sort of a long-range snapshot. We know we'll need that, but it is number 7 or 8 on the priority list.
Okay. And, I'm still interested in that segment of Orange Avenue. Is it still, 2 or 3 on the list?
Correct. There's no change in that, and actually, there is funding. Our urban attributable SU funding has been applied to 2 segments of Orange Avenue to finish up the design phases.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. We're making progress.
Chugging along. All right, this is a roll call vote, so we're ready for the vote. I will entertain a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented and as provided.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second, and again, this is a roll call vote, so please proceed with the roll call.
Commissioner Messersmith,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Keefe,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Matlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Yes,
Unanimously passes.
okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our next roll call vote agenda item, fiscal year 25-29 through 29 Transportation Improvement Amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask, 2 maps up on the screen. This is an amendment for 2 projects to add funding. One is for a safety project on the Ocklawackee River Bridge on I-10. And then the second one is for additional funding for Phase 2 of the PD&E for Capitol Circle Northeast, which is US 90 and Mayhem Drive. They did the first part of the PDE as a feasibility study, and this will fund the second part. Looking for a roll call vote, adopting resolution number 2025-066B. And there's the second project. By the way, note the limits of that are all the way from Park Avenue to, from Park Avenue to Mayhem Drive, and then on to Centerville Road.
Move. So move.
Any questions?
Questions?
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that we accept the amendment. Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have some questions about the Capitol Circle Northeast and US 90. When will citizens expect to start seeing public engagement opportunities for that PD&E?
I would anticipate that Brian may be better equipped if we're just getting into and sort of kicking off the PD&E. Would you say about 9 months or so, maybe a year before we're really?
We're probably 8 months at best away because we got a sizable amount of data collection activities, and at this point in time, we're still haven't engaged a consultant for that project yet. We're still, again, 8 to 10 months away from any kind of public outreach.
Okay.
And I would say as soon as we get a schedule, because I'm assuming you're still in consultant negotiations, so you don't have an actual schedule. As soon as we get a schedule, we will certainly pass it on to everybody.
And then the some of the questions I've gotten from constituents are along the lines of, what are you even studying? Everything's all hemmed in with existing businesses, churches, and stuff. And so I know it's very complicated, but I know we're going to find options. But at a high level, what's kind of the answer to that question? So people, I can explain what we're studying and that there are things that could really be done.
Greg, you want to take that one?
I guess so.
In terms of, again,
No, I
what,
know.
we've talked about this
Well,
quite a bit.
I think in short, it's obvious. I mean, there's right-of-way constraints there. You could potentially be looking at flyovers, things like that. I don't see how any improvements can be made without some level of land use impact to those businesses on those, especially on the four corners of it. But any type of expansion project that we do there is going to have some right-of-way acquisition to it. So there's several different things we've seen. The department's done around the state. Again, flyovers is a big one. I'm personally not a huge fan of those. I think they come with their own sets of problems. I think that's the purpose of this study, is to look at some different alternatives as to what could be done to that intersection.
Excellent. And then we know these projects have a long, long time horizon. Whatever is found in the study, whatever type of construction is done, is this type of thing where we wouldn't see things break ground or be completed for like 10 years out?
It's probably going to be in the order of 8 to 10 years at least. If you recall, last year, we requested that the department make some changes to the Strategic Intermodal System, or SIS, because the portion of Capitol Circuits under construction now is the last deficient facility we had. This intersection was not on that system, though we did petition them last year, and they changed to put this portion of Capitol Circle and Mayhem Drive on the SIS, so that actually at least opens us up to a larger pot of funding than most of our other roads that we're dealing with.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
To
Nick.
FDOT too. This is very hopeful about this. Thank you.
You're studying to make sure to get it right. That's
And
Right.
not only will I get you the schedule, I'll get you the project page once it's up, and you can keep up with the information as they update it as well. Thank you.
okay. All right, we're ready for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Messersmith? Commissioner O'Keefe?
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox?
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Matlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams Cox.
Yes.
Unanimously passes.
All right, thank you for the unanimous votes on both of these. And thank you all for the hard work and your patience on this. 8 to 10 years from now, somebody's going to win the lottery. By then, we may not be all be here. I'd like to be the one to win the lottery. Nevertheless, we're going to move on to number 7, our CRTPA action. Our Tallahassee to Havana Trail consultant selection.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Burke. He was managing the procurement, and he'll be the project manager for this project.
Congratulations. I think.
Thank you, and good afternoon, members. So as you may recall, I believe from the February CRTPA meeting, Suzanne actually initiated and you all approved a number of TIP amendments, reflecting, amongst other things, that the CRTPA had received SunTrails funding for some grant applications that we submitted. One of those grants that received funding was the Leon County segment of the Tallahassee to Havana Trail. It received funding for a PD&E project development environment study. Subsequent to that, we wrote a RFSQ and put that out with the city procurement. We had a selection committee that included members from the Tallahassee Leon Planning Department, Leon County Public Works, as well as the Parks and Rec Department, and as well as Commissioner Minor served on that selection committee. Anyway, last Thursday, we actually received presentations from the 2 highest ranked firms, and what we are here today is to actually recommend that the CRTPA approve the selection committee's recommendation for HAF to develop the PD&E study for the Leon County segment of that trail project, as well as to allow the CRTPA's executive director to initiate a agreement with regards to this project, and to allow the CRTPA chair to actually sign that agreement. So those are the 2 actions that we're requesting action today.
You've heard the recommendation. What is the will of the body?
Madam Chair, I move option 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved for option 1 and 2. At this point, we are asked if there are any public comments. Do we have any? Okay, hearing that we have no public comment. This is not a roll call, so we can just vote. Okay, all right. All in favor of the motion that is on the table, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. All right. Item B, fiscal year 27 through 31, project priority list.
And I'll again ask Ms. Lex to take care of this, of course.
Y'all just working her to death.
We are. We try to.
You going ahead to summer vacation or something?
No, not
Or maybe
quite.
did she win the lottery and y'all just?
If she did, she has not told us.
She got a job here, so she's won the lottery.
Oh, I'll let her deal with that. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it.
I'm still in kind of a fog getting over bronchitis, so forgive me if I'm a little jittery. The medicine doesn't really agree with me. Thank you.
I understand.
All right, so we're going to go on to the PPLs, which is going to be the foundation for part of the foundation for next year's TIP. Every year we adopt priority project lists. And as I said earlier, the TIP is consistent with the RMP, as are the project priority lists. We look at the long-term needs, and it includes identifying project and phases of projects. We are seeking available funding, and after these are adopted, we'll meet with FDOT as they develop next year's work program, and we'll look to see what funding we can get for our project priorities. These priorities are developed not only from the RMP, but for example, Tallahassee International Airport from their master plan, Star Metro, their transit development plan, We also have an intelligent transportation systems master plan for the ITS list. And lastly, the Transportation Alternatives Program, PPL, you approved previously this year. That is a competitive project search. Here are the different categories of our project lists, our priority project lists. I'm just going to touch on a few key points here. So instead of showing you that table you can't read, hopefully this one you can, but I wanted to emphasize that you're looking at a significant amount of outstanding investment in our roadways to complete just these first 4 priority projects. I would like to note that with the 2 segments of Crawfordville Road, the only outstanding funding we will be seeking in this PPL is the $1.1 million for right-of-way. Once that last piece of right-of-way is programmed and acquired, that is our only project that is ready to move into the construction phase. For the regional trails, as I mentioned before, there was significant investment in regional trail system, and we've touched on this before, but here are 4 of our priorities that receive funding from some trails. In addition to, I'd like to note that right-of-way funding for Crawfordville used our urban attributable funding. There were 3 safe routes to school, projects that were funded in this TIP, the priority projects. The bike ped, 2 projects are fully funded and off the list, which are Old St. Augustine and North Monroe Street. And 2 TA projects are funded, Waverly Road and Dr. M. Elkay Memorial. Finally, that is all I was about to touch on with the PPLs this year. If you have any questions. Also, I would like to note, though, the aviation priorities and transit priorities, whenever those projects priorities are funded, it's so also noted on the TIP page. Requesting approved 2027 to 2031 project priority lists.
Acceptance as recommended by
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we would accept the recommendation, the presentation and the recommendation made by staff. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
staff. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll have our regional mobility plan update.
And Mr. Castro.
Director. Way back in January, before it snowed, we met on this project at the retreat, and we've had a lot of development since that point in time. We've gone through a lot of identification of costs and of costs and projects as well as revenues. And so part of what you just saw from Suzanne's presentation into the priority project list had that cost associated with that. That now will roll into the long-range plan for us to take a look at, our regional mobility plan, to take a look at for those costs as well. There's a couple things that I wanted to quickly let you all know about what we're also working on, some of the issues that we see that need to be addressed and things that we have addressed and still continue to work on. The survey component that we went through had some issues with it. We should have gone a little bit further and added some additional language into that to identify the projects and where it was from. And we included that information in the survey as well as where it sat on our priority project list. So as people went into into the survey, they could look at that and see where that was. I will say that there is some issues and continues to be some issues with Apple products. I don't know what it is about this particular survey, but Apple phones, iPhones, and iPads seem to have some issues with that. So we added some language in there to make sure that if people were going to use those kind of devices, that it might be better if they could jump on a computer somewhere and use that to help with this survey. Other than that, we're expecting some results from that in the near future. Give you some information about that. About 2 weeks ago, we had our committee meetings, and we had to over 200 surveys completed as part of that process, and we'll be extending this out. Since we did change the language and add some more information in there, we're going to extend it to the 23rd of June. Additionally, we are also considering adding another, or discussing adding another, if there's budget, to add another survey once we get finished with the meeting in September and have the draft cost feasible plan done. There's a couple other things that I wanted to point out in the agenda item itself with the PDF online. There's a couple links in there to some maps that I created in an app. So they work fine for me because it goes directly to my GIS account and opens it up whether I'm in there or not. But that doesn't work for whatever reason universally. So we're working on identifying those and fixing those issues. But in a bigger picture, those maps have behind them came out of the model, the transportation model. And there's some identified issues that we've got within that model that we really need to rectify before we go into a lot of detail about what that really represents. It does not affect the long-range plan. In the from the perspective of the projects, the costs or revenues, that all stays the same. It just helps identify future projects, which could be potentially be identified, but within the model or within the agenda item, Franco and myself, we've discussed the projects. Then there's a couple additions that we have, which are long-term projects beyond what we've already identified in the priority project list. So those are a couple things that we're working on, and understanding that the model itself is a district-wide model. One of the issues that we had was with the Wilani Boulevard. We added the Wilani Boulevard and modeled that. But when you use a district-wide model, you really want to move to a more specific identification and area location for modeling that. And that's not what was done here. And we don't intend on doing that as part of this. That will come later on as the interchange is developed through Blueprint. But understanding that it is in the model, we just need to identify we have some identified issues, like I said, and we need to rectify that with the folks who are doing the modeling. That being said, everybody followed that, taking notes, right? Franco is here from Kittleson and Associates, and I'll leave it up to Franco to walk you through the rest of that, but we'll be here in support, so if there's any other questions that you've got, we can get you an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, we talked about this a little bit, and Jack, you just kind of said that the model, there may be some tweaks or adjustments. There are, in the PDF of impacts to congestion projected from the Wilani Boulevard addition, there were just a couple areas that in the agenda it documented that there were expected increase in congestion. This is Centerville near the hospital, Miccosukee near the hospital, Park Avenue from Magnolia over to Victory Garden. Do you expect, or maybe this will have to come out of the details, that might be changed when we see updates, or is that something people can expect still?
I would imagine from where we are to where we want to be with that model, I would expect that those are probably going to stay there, just from knowing where they're at and what the other associated issues with those roads. I would say that there are also a lot of roads that were relieved from congestion.
Yes.
So that I would expect to continue as well. So those are some of the things that we're anticipating. But again, with some of the data that we've got in there, we really need to validate that against what we've seen in the past, and then see where that all lands.
Gotcha. And this table has like 25, 30 areas identified, and these are 4 or 5 that show increased congestion. Everything else is reduced. So the idea is, on the overall, it's an improvement.
Yes. From an overall perspective, and none of those were more than 10%, so those are really good numbers. So they reduced by 10% or went up by 10%.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You can go forward with your presentation.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Franco Saraceno from Kittleson and Associates. And Jack said quite a bit, but I'll try to fill in some blanks or hopefully add some flair here and there. All right, so I'm going to start with our project approach. You've all seen this flow chart a couple of times. Just wanted to give you an update as to where we are. Pretty much everything on the left side of this flow chart has been completed. We've done 2 rounds of public engagement. We've established our guiding principles and weighted them for application in the needs assessment process. We've reviewed other plans and incorporated them into the process. We've done a database needs assessment process. And so now where we are is at the phase of project prioritization, which is critical to building the cost feasible plan, which of course is the federal requirement to have a cost revenue balance plan at the end of the process. So we're on the home stretch, and at our next meeting, we'll be presenting a cost feasible plan. In terms of the project schedule, stakeholder and public involvement meetings have gone on throughout the course of the process. We have one more round of meetings that we'll do once we have a draft cost feasible plan. As I mentioned, we've completed guiding principles. We've basically completed plan development. So now we're at that point where we need to start prioritizing and building that cost feasible plan. So again, in November, we'll be back to you with a plan for adoption. So just a recap of what we've done with this board. We kicked off the project last September, came back in January with guiding principles. We're here in June with a sort of a draft cost feasible plan. We don't have a draft cost feasible plan, but what I'll present to you is some project costs and revenue numbers, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what that's going to look like. And then again, in November, plan adoption. So in terms of public involvement, we did launch a website back in November that has a whole lot of information about how to engage, links to the 2 surveys that we've completed, a whole lot of other sort of background project information. If you haven't looked at it, I encourage you to go to the website, check it out. Survey 2, which is currently in process, as Jack mentioned. The goal was to complete it before this meeting so we could present results, but for the reasons Jack mentioned, we have extended it to the end of June. As part of this phase of the process, we did 2 community events last month, and of course, we've supported and promoted all of this with a series of e-blasts, email blasts, and social media posts along the way. So the 2 community events that we did in May, one was in Panacea at the Community Garden Farmers Market back on May 3rd. The other was the Southside Farmers Market on May 15th. At Panacea, we talked to about 20 to 30 people. We presented this map that I've got here that's all noted from the meeting. And pretty much we got overwhelming support across the board for the projects that we presented, particularly Crawfordville Road, for obvious reasons. We did hear from several folks that they want to see more trails, more bicycle facilities. And some people commented that we need better operations on Crawfordville, things like turn lanes, coordinated signals, those types of improvements. At the Southside Farmers Market, we heard support primarily for Orange Avenue and other projects. We had a couple comments about transit, public transit. Folks want to see extended bus service on Capitol Circle Northwest. We had several comments about drainage issues on Orange Avenue that hopefully will be taken care of as part of the Orange Avenue improvements when those are advanced. So the survey, Jack said quite a bit about the survey. The way it's designed is in an interactive map format to give people the opportunity to click on projects, and the projects that I'll share with you in just a moment, and to provide open-ended feedback as well as a yes or no, agree or disagree whether they like the project. There's another component of the survey where people can drop a pin on the map and tell us about what kinds of other issues they see out on roadways. Again, as Jack mentioned, we've got about 250 responses so far and are hoping to get many, many more. We're just about to release a new set of social media posts to promote the survey. Survey 1, we had about 900 respondents, so we're shooting for at least that many in this survey. So you may remember back in January, I presented on the guiding principles, and I offered a set of weights. The weights are designed to recognize that certain goals or guiding principles are more important than others. So the set of weights on the left side of this slide are the weights that recommended to the board. And really, they're based on what we learned from the community and the stakeholders as part of the first survey and outreach efforts. The board suggested that we test an alternative set of weights, and that's the weights on the right side of this bar chart. And I just wanted to share that we are going to be testing those weights and running with both sets of weights moving forward into the prioritization process. In terms of travel demand modeling, as Jack mentioned, we're at the E+C phase. So we've completed the base year model. We have an existing plus committed, or E+C model. And what that means is basically it's a minimum investment scenario on the network side where we test only what has been committed or programmed over the next 5 years. And we run that network or supply side against the demand that we expect to see in 2050. So the 2050 population and employment. And that has been tested both with and without that interchange at Walani and I-10. Moving forward, there will be one more scenario in the modeling effort, and that is the cost feasible network run against that 2050 demand. So wanted to share that we are, of course, taking into consideration roadway constraints that come in a few different flavors. We've obviously got physical constraints. For example, on Tennessee, where properties abut the right-of-way, and there's really not much we can do to widen those types of roadways. Fiscal constraints, those roadways that maybe don't have physical constraints but are cost prohibitive to widen. And then, of course, policy constraints represented primarily by the canopy roads in the region. I think it's important because, as you'll see on this snapshot of mostly focused in on Tallahassee of the E+C results, this is the volume to capacity ratios in that E+C model run. And volume capacity ratio just means the traffic that's expected to be on this roadway divided by the capacity. So anytime you have greater than 1.0, you're over capacity. It's pretty simple, the concept. And you can see that, Tennessee, Monroe, Thomasville, there's a lot of congestion on a lot of these roadways that unfortunately we can't do a lot about because most of them are constrained roadways. But one of the things that our team is doing currently is looking at operational improvements, different types of ITS improvements on some of those constrained roadways, either as interim improvements or ultimate improvements that can be considered in the future to alleviate congestion without having to widen those roadways. So now we get to projects. So we've got 3 tables of candidate projects for the cost feasible plan. The first table is the current priority list. These are those projects that are established priorities. There are also projects that are in various phases of project development. There's been some investment, whether it's planning, design, or right-of-way acquisition. So, of course, those projects need to go first. These are the top priority projects. And of course, we've got Crawfordville, Orange Avenue, Pensacola, and Woodville Highway. Other needs that are not as high priorities include Adams, Bluntstown Highway, Capitol Circle, and Woodville. And then, of course, we have the strategic intermodal system projects that FDOT has already incorporated into the SIS cost feasible plan, all of which are on I-10. When we take a closer look at those top priorities and start to cost them out, we've got $400 million worth of projects, and that's just for that top box of projects. These are improvements that, as we all know, are getting more and more expensive almost by the day. We've got over $100 million worth of $170 million on Crawfordville, $75 million on Woodville. Orange Avenue by itself is $118 million. So very, very expensive projects, which I kind of gave you a sneak preview. When we get to revenue, that's where it gets really complicated. The chart on this slide shows you what the revenue projections look like 5 years ago when we did the 2045 RMP versus what they look like today. So if you see that, the right side of that bar chart, Other Roads is a program that FDOT has, that's state federal money that is the primary source to do improvements on the state highway system. 5 years ago, we expected to have almost 700 million in Other Roads. In this plan update, there's been a correction in the forecasts, and we're expecting only 73 million. And that's for the life of the plan from 2031 to 2050. So when you add it all up and compare, we're almost $500 million shy of where we thought we were 5 years ago in terms of future revenues. So when you compare the total revenues, state federal revenues we expect to have available in the 2050 plan of 287 million to these project costs of 400 million, you see how difficult it is to build a cost feasible plan that is inclusive of much of this. And to add to that, this 400 million is in present day dollars. The 287 million is in inflated dollars. So once we include those projects in the appropriate time bands in the future, we'll have to inflate those costs. So that 400 million becomes 600 or 700 million, depending on when those projects are expected to be built. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's where we are. Our needs far, far, far exceed our resources in terms of building that cost feasible plan. So that's all I have for you today. The next steps are to essentially prioritize those projects and include as many of them as we can. It probably will only be 2 or 3 of them in the cost feasible plan. Once we've done that, we'll do a third round of public engagement that may include another survey. We'll certainly include community events and some workshops. And then after that, put all the documentation together and come back to you in November for plan adoption. So happy to take any questions.
I was very impressed with the flow charts and the Gantt charts, but then we got deeper and saw how deep that hole was. I climbed back out. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Commissioner Minor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yes.
Can you compare that shortfall of nearly $500 million with what other districts within FDOT are facing? Is this similar to what other districts are facing, or is this an outlier?
Yeah, it is similar. There was a statewide sort of correction of the revenue forecast. All of the state federal revenue forecasts come from FDOT, are passed down to all the MPOs across the state, and we're all seeing more or less the same issue. I mean, the numbers vary depending on the size of the MPO, but yes.
I don't imagine you've done the math on this, but is it basically a proportional drop? Is it relatively uniform throughout the state?
I don't know enough to answer that question mathematically, but I would say more or less, yes.
Okay. If I could. In conversation with my counterparts around the state, where everybody is showing substantially less revenue than we did last time. But I think it's important to note, it's not necessarily we have less money. We do have less money, but apparently what we've learned through central office was the projections that were done for the 2045 model were drastically overstated. In some cases, monies were double and triple counted. So that's why you see such a drop in the two. The one thing I will point out as well, and I've always said, as long as I've been doing long-range plans, they're basically worthless the day you adopt them. It's already based on, you're projecting revenues 25 years out, which is extremely difficult to do accurately. So if you look at as Suzanne presented earlier, our current 5-year work program has over $600 million in it. I think these are extremely conservative. The important part is that we have all of these projects in the pipeline and they're moving through the process and they're documented as part of the long-range plan. So I don't want to say I wouldn't put any faith in these numbers, but I wouldn't be too alarmed from the fact that we're still moving projects forward in spite of what they say.
And Madam Chair, I had one more question. About 3 weeks ago, I promoted the survey on the district newsletter that I sent out, and got some feedback about the survey, and some people actually found they couldn't get through it. It didn't seem like there was user testing done on the survey, and I conveyed that to Greg. And I think some changes have been made since then, but there's still some issues here that I think if I were someone that was not affiliated with CRTPA, was not very familiar with the projects, I wouldn't know enough to be able to comment and provide feedback on some of the things you're asking us to do. For example, if you get to the stage where you have the map and you can click on the different projects, someone can click on that project. For example, like with Tharp Street. Tharp Street is a project that's been kind of managed by Blueprint. And if you click on that, you have a page that comes up that has a brief description of what the project is, and some additions have been made since I spoke with Greg Slay about it 3 weeks ago. But it has the link. It says, for more information, click on this link. And it has a link to the Blueprint website, but not a link to the Blueprint project page for Tharp Street. And if I'm a user using this, I want more information about Tharp Street. Very few users taking the survey are going to go to the Blueprint website and then take 4 or 5 clicks to get to the Tharp Street project. It's just not going to happen. User testing, it would be able to kind of identify these problems and correct them. It doesn't look like user testing was done. So I think the survey is going to be online until June 26th. Is that still correct?
Yes, sir.
So we don't have much time. I told Greg that I would do another newsletter and promote this again it gets out to a lot of people if there are changes that are made to improve this. And, I don't know if the decision is if we're going to make some improvements to the survey so that's more usable between now and June 26th. I know that's not much time, but I just wanted to say that I'm not happy with the quality of the survey and the usability. And if I'm a user that's not on the CRTPA board or staff, I don't know enough about these projects by taking the survey to be able to comment intelligently on them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? My comment is in reference to, do we receive, and I maybe we have and I've missed it, do we as board members, we receive this information like via our work emails when these surveys are going out, or we
Yes,
just
ma'am.
happen to see it on social media?
No, they should be going out. Anytime we put out something survey related, we always send it to you all as well.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure, because I know I've done a few of the surveys, but I think it's because I've stumbled upon them on social media. So for those who may not be out there that much, I want to make sure we were getting it. Maybe something in my filters is pulling it, but I don't recall seeing it. But I could have missed it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Again, thank you for the presentation. And Greg, you're right. Who knows what's going to happen that far out. And perhaps the overestimation that has been done in the past was due to some things that we learned, such as COVID, the cost of things, and all of that went into play. So, all right, thank you for the regional mobility plan update. So, anything else in that regard?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to DOT, Florida Department of Transportation report. Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. We've got an upcoming public involvement opportunity for the CRTPA region. It relates to your number 4 priority that was on your just adopted project priority list. It's a segment of US 319 or Crawfordville Highway going from south of L.L. Wallace Road to south of the State Road 61 intersection. We did add additional funds for the design to get this to 100%. As well as program additional right-of-way funds for the remaining right-of-way needs on this segment. But the virtual project update will be available beginning July 24th. That's a Thursday. You can attend via our Northwest Florida Roads website. The maps and drawings and other project information will be available at that time to review. This does propose a 4-lane capacity improvement for that segment of road, approximately 1.9 miles. As shown in your project priority list, this has a current construction estimate of approximately $25 million. And the right-of-way funding has been programmed in fiscal year 27 for acquisition. So as Suzanne stated, this project will be set up for construction funding in the near future. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions on this project or any other DOT project in the CRTPA region.
Question? Thank you, Brian. July 24th is the day after my 26th birthday. So $25 million, that's pretty good. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Vice Chair?
Brian, can you talk a little bit about what cuts you guys may be experiencing as a result of the budget currently wrestling with?
We have been very fortunate. Our anticipated DOT bill is expected to be approved with full budget. We have instituted several cost-saving measures on a personnel-based level through our state DOGE process. Fortunately, that has not been related to cuts to actual jobs. It's been more built around the efficiency of how we do business. But we do not anticipate having to adjust any of our existing projects in our work program based on the proposed budget.
All right. Great news. Okay. Mr. Executive Director?
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple of things. We are moving forward with 2 SS4 applications. We're assisting the Leon County with the development of the North Monroe resubmittal on the same project we submitted last year. I actually had a status meeting this morning with Charles Wu and Brian Powers from RSH, and Charles Wu, of course, from Leon County. That project's moving along well. We're also working on to submit another application for West Tennessee Street from Enon Church Road into Monroe Street. That would be looking at safety issues along Tennessee Street. And again, that's the same one we submitted last year. We will probably be coming back to you all for some direction as it relates to the North Monroe project. If you recall, last year, our submittal was about $21 million for the entire project. Federal Highway funded a small portion, about $200,000 related to some median work. The problem with that award was it only covers about half of what needs to be done. So we're trying to work with Federal Highway to get some ideas as to whether or not we should just forego that money and take a chance. And then this round of applications, because again, we'd be stuck with the $200,000 bill to finish the project. So we're trying to get some clear direction from them. I know some of the projects that were put on hold when the new administration came in, some of those have been released. We're not sure yet with ours. I know, Chris, the RPC had one. Have you guys heard anything on yours? You did?
We did. We actually yeah, we received word the week before last on our SS4A grant that for $500,000. It was paused, and while I was actually out of the office last, we got an email saying we had the green light to proceed.
Okay, good.
So, and then I checked with the Emerald Coast Regional Council, and they so that's good news.
So and it may necessitate us having an executive committee meeting for some direction, because we just don't know as of yet, since your next meeting is not until September. So just to give you a heads up. We also did a public meeting on the Havana portion, I'll call it Tallahassee to Havana Trail. I'll let Greg give a quick update on the results of that public meeting we had last month.
Okay, as you all may remember, in the fall of 2022, you approved the Tallahassee to Havana Trail feasibility study. And the study itself did not include a preferred alternative because we wanted to wait until we got actually information with regards to SunTrails applications and proceeding the project forward. So in May, this past May 7th, we held an open house and we got some public input. And as a result of that public input, overwhelmingly, the citizens that were at the meeting actually approved or voted. We had a map and with options, and they overwhelmingly put their stickers on one of the alternatives that follows Iron Bridge Road up to 9th Avenue in Havana, and it goes through downtown Havana. So we have updated that study. And actually, the Gadsden portion of the trail project received design funding, SunTrails that we applied for. So that's going to be going forward as well.
And the last thing I had, I believe it was week before last, Yolanda, Suzanne, and Greg did a helmet fitting at Walker Ford and handed out 75 helmets. Or Southside Farmers Market, yep. Yep, that's right, we did some of those. So we've been handing out quite a few bike helmets in the last few months. Glad to see that program moving forward. Madam Chair, that's all I had, unless anybody else.
Yes, sir.
Greg, I know they're every year for the past few years, legislation. The OAC, but that had no, that has no effect on local TPOs. It's just strictly legislation tied to the OAC.
Yes, sir, that's correct. There was a new twist on that this year. There was an option for MPOs and the districts, I'm assuming, to enter into a planning type agreement, which that still hasn't been signed into law yet. We actually got some information from central office today asking all the MPOs their interest in that. I think at this point, and Brian, I don't know if you guys have gotten any kind of detail as to what that agreement might look like. So that will be something we'll take a look at and see if it's worthwhile. We already have the planning agreement that we do every 2 years that covers a lot of that. So once we get a draft of what they're thinking, but it is an optional agreement. It's not something that's required.
What would that
That's not, yeah, that's not connected to the MPOAC.
for the board's information, I guess 3-4 years.
Last 2 years in a row, they've
The
outwardly.
state has looked to either separate themselves from the MPOAC and move in a different direction. And the organization MPOAC, we've had conversations about what we should do there, but we're still trying to stay very much tied to the state. With our operations, there is a new executive director that will start soon, but I think we should be just be on the lookout for the fact that at some point, if it does pass and if it keeps happening eventually, I think it will. The way we do our statewide planning with MPOAC would likely change. As Greg said, it has no effect on us locally, but the MPOAC will have to make a decision about how they want to continue to operate outside the state if it so happens that it is separated from the state. And you think I summed it up pretty well?
Yes, sir. Very good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to give that report. Thank you.
Thank you. As our rep, thank you for reporting out on what may be coming in the future so we can be prepared as best we can.
Actually, if I could follow up on that, as you recall, the MPOAC actually did their meeting this time in this room in Tallahassee, so I appreciate all the help. Yolanda especially put a lot of work with city staff getting that set up. Commissioner Richardson attended as well and got a firsthand view of the MPOAC at work. So that was one of the better attended meetings that we had. So we were glad to see that the folks took the time.
And if that will get more people to attend, you're welcome to come back to the chambers anytime. Well, I say that, but Yolanda did a lot of work, so take that with her. All right. Last on our agenda is our CRTPA information. No, not last, but number 10 on our agenda is future meeting dates. The next board meeting is scheduled for September 15th, but you've already alerted us that there might be a meeting.
There's
for
probably going to be a
executive
change with
board.
that. Yep.
Okay, meeting, and are there any committee actions? I did see something in our attachment about some things that are occurred in committee. Is there anyone need to report out on that?
No, ma'am, I don't believe so.
Just for information. And then, is there anything that any member of the board would like to bring forward to discuss, or request action or items to be brought back? Hearing none. Have a great summer. Meeting is adjourned.
You too, man. How you doing?